Hello and welcome to Those Muckrakers. I'm Pete,
And I'm Pat.
and this is episode. What episode? I never remember. What episode is this?
This is episode 31.
So, as a landmark, episode 31, our SoundCloud account has been canceled. So, right now, until we resolve the issue, you can only listen to the first. The most recent 3 episodes, but we're going to get that back
The,
up and running because we're a
we can
professional
only
outfit here.
you can only listen to the most recent 2 episodes, episode 29 and 30. I don't know if they'll let us upload this one because we're out of space, so we'd have to delete one of those other two.
No, we're not deleting shit. The record must stand. If you've been
Yep.
watching the news, which I assume if you listen to this you haven't, we here at Those Muckrakers are proud to be an enemy of the people.
Yar. The enemy of the people, so dishonest. So very, very fake news.
So,
This is
man, like I don't know where you want to get into this, but I want to open it up by going.
Sure.
I feel so bad for the Trump White House staffers. Because they run, I don't. If you don't know this, it's in books and stuff. But it's fascinating. They run an around-the-clock interference game to only bring the president good news about himself. And the other day, he figured out how to Google himself, and now wants to regulate Google because he couldn't find anything good about him on Google on like the first page.
Okay, so what do? The internet now, and I just type in TRJ. Wait, hold on. I'm a very stable genius. I know how to spell my own
You
name.
know that there are some people going, shit, he knows how to Google himself. You never Google yourself. Fuck, who let him near Google? I thought we had him set up with, what is it, Microsoft Bing?
Yeah, so that they'll never find anything.
We had him set up with
He
fucking Netscape. What are you doing?
He was on Netscape with Ask Jeeves. That hasn't worked in 30 years. All he can find is like reports for him being a real estate mogul, and he'll get a cameo in Home Alone 2. That's the most recent article that Bing could find about him.
I would tell him if you want to Google yourself and not find anything, just come on and interview on Those Muckrakers, because I'm sure that we don't show up in any Google searches.
Well, yeah, apparently our YouTube does, but last week's episode is still not on YouTube because I had to find a copy of, what's it called, Microsoft Movie Maker from Windows 7. Because the Windows 10 one is terrible. Windows 10, everything is awful, and I had no idea until I get a fresh copy of Windows 10 and all of their free programs again. Windows 10 Word, awful. Cannot use it. It's total abject garbage. I had to use a 2007 disk to reinstall Word. That 2007 isn't even
Well,
Windows 7. That's much further back than that.
I, for one,
That's
will be super happy whenever we hit the computer wall where microprocessors can't be made any smaller, and then technology just stops jumping forward in computing power every year.
Yeah. Like every year, it's supposed to get twice as good as the year before it. But the problem is that we're reaching the singularity where computers just can't get any better because the microchips can't get any smaller. And the one way around this was to grow microchips. Like it would be organic material that you could use to create even smaller and smaller microscopic microchips. But the problem with that is that after years of financing research into that, the person that started that research was actually a scam artist, and he had never been working on it the whole time. When he was found out, the whole thing blew up.
Yeah, that guy was like, I got the quantum computer, and they're like, can we see it? And he's like, no. I remember that. So that guy is actually that's my fear of the Mueller investigation, that we're pouring all this money and stuff into it. And he's like, I got really big things. You're gonna hang on to your socks. It's gonna be good. And then the end of it, we're gonna be like, fine, show us. And he's gonna be like, so you know that whole time I was supposed to be investigating? Yeah, I didn't do any of that.
Yeah, Mueller's he's another microprocessor guy. Yeah, I didn't actually.
Well, if he's not doing it, people sure are going to jail based on the stuff he found.
And if you want to know which side of the aisle's actually biased, just keep in mind that Kent Starr, the guy that the special prosecutor for Bill Clinton, he was Republican. The special prosecutor for this current Republican president, Mueller's also Republican, lifelong Republican.
Yeah.
They're always Republicans that do the investigations because when it's a Democrat, another Democrat can't possibly do it because that'll be biased. But when it's Republican, it has to be a Republican or else they'll be biased. Yeah, it sounds to me like it's actually the Republicans that are biased. It's the Democrats are the ones that are trying to be fair and even-handed here.
Yeah.
But that's just my take on things.
Well, like, yeah, it's a fucking mess. Uh, I didn't like Ken Starr because Ken Starr, if you've ever seen him, looks like the bad guy in a nice mid-90s political thriller.
How so?
He's just got that wheezy little face and those little glasses, and like that like Harrison Ford would like punch him out for something, like
Being a Nazi.
he would have the dossier that he was going to give to China or something, like he just looks like that kind of guy.
Oh, I have amazing news. Speaking of dossiers, so Nunes went to England recently to speak to MI6 in person to demand answers about the Steele dossier, and you know what MI6 told him?
Wait, who went to demand info?
Nunes.
Tell me that they karate chopped him in the neck, or they just shot him with a dart, and he woke up back in like Washington.
Essentially, yes. MI6 was like, yeah, you can just get the fuck right out of here, man. The door's behind you.
Yeah, because you're not. So the thing is, as we've said before, politics in America are very skewered, and a lot of the things we do don't make any sense. In that, like, we live to serve end-stage capitalism, in which like the system has run amok, but the system has enough money to pay people to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to let anybody come into my house and tell me that I get to go to the doctor for free. No one's going to come into my house and tell me that my public tax money should fund, citywide transportation that's both efficient and affordable. The hell with that! Like, they don't understand that our spin doctors have gotten to the point where we're so easily brainwashed
Yeah.
that like we will
So
kill.
we vote against our own best
Yeah, we'll
interests.
vote against their own best interest. Other countries aren't like that. Other countries are watching in horror and have a more balanced viewpoint. Like, we talked before about, like, Denmark, when people were like, oh, Denmark's a failed state! And, like, the Danish were like, no, actually, it's, if you look at our ratings, they're very good, and people are very, very happy, and they get to go to college, and
Oh, free college! I bet that's great. Actually, yes, it is. It's people rather enjoy it.
yeah, well, what, if you went to college for free, why would you ever leave? I don't know, man. Have you ever been to college? Look, I'll give you a little, to address that whole thing, I'll give you a little story. All right, so we all went to college. We were all young. We drank like it was our job, like we abused our bodies in terrible ways, right? And it was awesome because you
It
could
was
just,
the best.
yeah, it was the best. But you could just bounce back up.
Okay, bigly.
In college, at that age, you could be like, "Hey, we're gonna go out and get crucified, woo!" And like everyone would go do it, and then you pull yourself off the cross the next day and go to class, have some coffee, you're good. That doesn't happen in your 30s. You know what I mean? Nobody into like their 30s
No.
and 40s is like, you know what? I want to do this forever.
Yeah, no. Like, you only say you want to do it forever in your 20s whenever you can actually wake up and go, oh, that was awful. I never want to do it again except for tonight. Yeah, woo! In your 30s, you're still saying, oh, I never want to do that
I mean,
again. Like,
look,
2 weeks later, because
I-
you still feel bad 2 weeks later.
Thanks to the great state of New York, I basically got a subsidized master's degree, based on like working stuff. So like the state, in exchange for me, working for the Department of Education, basically put me through a master's degree, which is great. But like, I don't
So
want
you
to.
mean, so you mean to tell me that one of the richest states in America also has a really good socialist college system, Peter?
So I'm gonna tell you something, dude. I could not wait to not be in college anymore. There was nothing about there that goes, you know what? I'd like to stay here forever.
So you mean they were paying for your college and you didn't just stick on and do that till the end of time?
Yeah, I wasn't like, can I scam them for another degree? Like, dude,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's like people are dumb. But yeah, so
Yeah, like, because here's the thing: as long as you don't have a shit job, your job probably requires you to like learn a set routine, and then you just kind of do it, right? With college, it's always new classes, new routines, new things to learn, new things to do. That's fun up to a point, and then you're like, okay, can I just like actually do something
yeah,
productive?
I don't know if these people
But
that think that
whatever happens, though, I will say that Denmark has a much higher graduation system than America. So what is it about having to pay for college that makes people want to stay there forever, huh? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's how reality looks.
Well,
if you want to talk about cost versus
the
no
idea
cost.
is people don't seem to understand that the population being not educated and being poor doesn't just hurt poor people. You don't live in a bubble. It hurts all of us. You know why they can't bring that shiny factory to your town? Not the pool for workers there is not big enough. Like they
But
don't
they
have the
can't
skill set to work there.
they can't do it because they're not giving my boss another pay raise. That's what Trump needs to do: reduce regulations and give my
So
boss a pay
I'm
raise.
super glad you spoke about pay raises. So is his cancellation of pay raises in your notes?
The no, what's this
Oh,
about?
yeah. So let me go ahead and sit you on down by the fire and not to seduce you, to tell you a story. I realized that sounded really, really sexy when I'm like, let me sit you down by the fire and tell you a
Well,
story.
now
So
that you've disappointed our audience, go ahead
so
and not seduce us.
so Trump just canceled the federal cost of living raise for all the federal employees, citing we don't have the money in the budget for it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was 2.1%. It was like a 2.1% raise. It wasn't even like a big raise. It was just the basic cost of living, meaning like if your salary is going to
Yeah.
stay competitive with like the cost of living increasing, you need this raise to stay current. He just canceled it after giving a tax cut to the richest Americans. He's like, yeah, and like the Republicans are freaking.
If you're gonna be able to afford bread next week, you might need this cost of living increase.
Yeah. So like,
Like
it also the people in
that's
all
my
the
terrible Jeff Foxworthy, if no one can tell.
in a bunch of states that went Trump, there's also a lot of federal employees. I think the biggest places that are going to be affected are going to be obviously D.C., Texas, and I want to say maybe the state of Virginia. Anyway, places that went Trump, he's canceling their cost of living raise. The dude that's gone on enough golf tours to, I think, feed all the homeless veterans for a year is saying there's not
Yeah.
money in the budget
This
for a
is
basic cost of
this
living
is
raise.
like that's the thing about this president. Not only is he fucking infuriating, but everything that he actively does is stuff that he accused Obama of doing. Like he's all like, Obama goes golfing more than any other president. Sad. But then whenever he gets in office, he literally has gone golfing more than every other president combined. Like he
Well,
takes 3 to 4 day weekends every single week to go on golfing vacations that cost the taxpayers $25 million a day because of how much it costs to protect the president
and
out of
and
DC.
let's talk about the real thing here. Golf fucking sucks, and the people who
There's
play
that
it
too.
suck. Like
Like
I've been.
at least if he was gonna go play like Mario on the Switch every weekend, I could understand
You
that.
know what?
But no, he wants to go play golf.
If the president was like a Mario Kart fiend, I'd respect that. If the president
really
if the
would.
president went out and shot hoops, anything. So what people are doing to cover for all this is they
Folks,
go,
okay, what we need to do is be able to take the shortcut on Rainbow Road. Okay, the blue shell needs to be nerfed. All right, sad.
so yeah, like
not an
they keep. Here's the thing. So people keep pointing out, they're going, the stock market's higher than it's ever been. Well, and I go, yeah. It would be just like if you do you remember the waning days of Kmart before it really fell apart?
Yeah, yeah.
So like these
Because
places like
at that point, the right before Kmart died, its profits skyrocketed because everything they put everything at like half off because
yes.
they're just trying to like
So
push all the inventory out the
yeah,
door.
if you ever walked into a Kmart, that's kind of the stock market right
But
now. So
that's
people are just
right,
walking
but that
out with
level
like. Go ahead. So
that level of prices is just unsustainable for Kmart. If they had continued at that rate, they would have bankrupted anyway. But they weren't doing this to sustain themselves. They were doing
yeah,
this just to cash out and liquidate all their merchandise and then move
exactly.
on.
People were. I remember people were like buying the shelves. They were selling like the shelves stuff was on, like. It looked like a post hurricane, like when people were like, we got to get all the bread. So
Yep.
that's what's happening in the stock market. Also, the stock market is more of an indicator of rich people hoarding their wealth than the average it's not a reliable indicator for how the economy is doing. Also, if you remember when the stock market crashed, what happens when it crashes? It peaks, like it hits a top.
Yeah.
It goes way, way up,
Yeah,
and then it
for-
just fucking falls apart.
Yeah, now does a balloon pop whenever it has a medium amount of air in it or a whole hell of a lot of air in it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what we're looking at right here. The stock market has to swell and then reach like a point in which it's
Also,
completely unsustainable.
Of course,
and then,
the stock market would go up under this guy. He's basically, you got a president who's like insider trading.
Well, yeah, he's insider trading, but also keep in mind he's not very smart, and
Yeah.
mostly what he does is just rubber stamp stuff that the GOP hands him, and the GOP is all, beholden to their wealthy benefactors, which are all Wall Street cronies.
Yeah.
So all the GOP wants to do is just slide deregulation stuff to Trump, and he'll rubber stamp all of it like the, good little lackey puppet he is.
So all those people that are posting that like, the stock market's never been better. When we're eating our boots, tune into those muckrakers. Please give us a rating, because we'll talk about it.
Papa, please tell me what life was like before the sky disappeared.
We had
Shut
a
up, son, and eat your squirrel.
we had a president.
Oh.
We had a mighty president named Trump, and he was working for the people, but the deep state didn't like him, so they crashed the stock market to make him look bad.
Was it worth it, Papa? Yes, it was, son. We sure triggered those liberals good.
Now eat your dirt.
We sure triggered them good. Now eat your dirt soup.
Pretty much,
There's no
yeah.
water in my dirt soup. All the water's communist.
Yeah.
The liberals drink the water.
So yeah,
Swamp
like
plants crave.
I finally. Oh, by the way, I finally blocked somebody on my Facebook because I got tired of their stuff.
Yeah?
They were just
What was
posting.
it?
They were posting stuff that was blatantly untrue. Just all of the Trump memes, just constantly. And one of them, I said, "Hey, man, this is false information. It is blatantly untrue, and you're a fool for posting it." And and it was the weirdest reply. He goes, "I was waiting all day for shit talkers. The only shit I trust is the shit I take in the morning." And I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking stop following this guy.
Why would you trust your own shit? I mean, that's like that one serial killer who listened to his dog, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Son of shit.
this guy's. Yeah, instead of son of Sam, it'll be son of morning poop.
I took a
what?
shit in the morning. It told me to go shoot somebody.
This is
I don't
So,
trust
you know what?
I don't trust life advice of anybody who's doing worse than me. That includes like digested remnants of food living in my toilet bowl.
Yep. So, do you want to talk about Spiro Agnew?
Yeah, let's talk about old Spiro. I don't know what's going on with him. Now, is he was the guy that was the vice president that had to step down under Nixon, right?
Yeah, he's Nixon's first vice president.
What did he get in trouble for?
Oh no, we're just talking about his lawyer.
Oh, he had a
His
lawyer?
his personal lawyer during the whole Nixon impeachment thing.
Yeah.
And also, he was involved in a lot of other really bad stuff. So, the best part about what all happened last week with Cohen testifying that Trump's, definitely a criminal, and Manafort's a criminal, and all this other stuff is going on, right? Like,
Yeah.
truly terrible stuff happened with Trump last week, which plunged his approval ratings to the lowest we've seen
That's
yet.
actually something I want to talk about. His approval ratings are actually so low now that there are more people that want him to be impeached than don't.
There are in fact 13% more people that want to see him removed from office. Not just disapprove, but they want to see him removed
Right,
from
and
office.
if you guys
than
remember,
people who
impeached
improve.
impeach doesn't just mean you're fired. Impeach can mean Congress and the Senate shaking their finger at you. To actually
Yeah,
have a sitting
impeach-
president removed is a much bigger deal.
Yeah. So, but right now he has a 36% approval rating, which sounds about right. About a third of this country's hopeless.
And that's what we talked about. Was
And
even under Nixon.
46% and 49% rather of all people want to see him removed from office.
Yeah, and we talked about that. Even under Nixon, you had a strong core of 35%. So his approval ratings will probably, and that's most of the statisticians and people that we read and stuff have said, is that no matter what, he'll never lose that diehard 35% because they're already lost. They're so far into him that they'll never change their mind about him.
Yeah, and the thing is that I know a lot of people who are part of that 35%, right? Like, these aren't people that I'm mildly acquainted with. These are, like, largely family members and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People I've known my entire life because I'm in Southeast Georgia, so yeah, of course I do. But I know a lot of these 35%, and their deal is, if you're wondering how could someone look at all this and still approve of Trump, they don't. right? They don't look at this. They tune out whenever the news
Right.
gets
So
bad
they're not.
because they've already made up their mind that Trump is their Jesus. He is the person they're going to follow through thick and thin. If anyone says a bad word about him, they just won't listen. They'll assume that it's wrong. They'll assume that it's a lie. Anytime someone like Giuliani goes on TV and goes, America! They're like, yeah, see, there you go. This person says that he's okay. And
I
that's what they
always.
listen to. They watch Fox and Friends and they don't laugh like the rest of us do. They watch Fox and Friends and go, yeah, that's right. Judge Jeanine has some good points and all this other stuff.
I always look at like how credible stuff is, and then I look for numbers backing it up. And most of his stuff is statistically and like numerically by the facts untrue.
Yeah.
All the stuff that he
And
says.
And I mean, like, if you tune into PolitiFacts, they have a running list of all of his lies, and it's usually stuff like him saying it was not raining whenever he gave his inauguration
Yeah.
speech, and then they'll show a video of it raining while he gave his inauguration speech, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the type of stuff they have. Provably false things. And this is what's mind-blowing about that is that I remember back when I was in elementary school and we were having a lecture on the difference between facts and opinions, and the example that the teacher brought up to explain to us, how you can tell what's a fact versus an opinion is a fact would be whether or not it's raining outside, right? If it is or it isn't, that would be a fact. An opinion would then be whether it's raining or not is good or bad, right? Like, we can respect each other's opinion. If Peter's like, it's raining, it sucks, I'm like, no, it's raining, that's cool. And we can respect each other having a difference of opinion. But if I'm like, Peter, it is raining outside, and you're like, it is not raining outside, and I look out and I'm like, but it's clearly raining, look, it's right there, and you're like, no, it's not, and then like you scream libtard, and then I don't know, drive off in your truck spewing coal everywhere. It's like, that's bizarre. Like, how can
It's not.
am I supposed to
It's
respect that opinion?
Well, it's
Because
not.
it's not an opinion.
It's
It's
not
just
really
wrong.
bizarre. This answers a question that we've asked throughout history: is, how did the diehard Nazis follow Hitler when clearly everything he was doing hurt Germany? How did people follow Pol Pot when he was ruining the country and this, that, and the other? And that's because there is a subset of people that will latch on to a strong charismatic leader and then follow him. And these people that rise to power and do that is because they have that weird sort of personal charisma that people follow.
And now, if you're on the left or if you're a sane individual, you could probably watch Trump and feel nothing but disgust and be like, how could anyone find this charismatic?
Yeah.
The thing is that it's because he's saying nothing but things that you find to be disgusting and abhorrent. Of course, everything that paints everything about him as disgusting. If you agreed with everything he was saying, then suddenly you would start to see the appeal. Such as whenever he said, maybe we should take guns away from people first and then prosecute them before we decide if they can keep their guns if we decide they're a criminal. And like, some liberals were like, holy shit, he might actually do this. And then the Republicans were like, oh god, he might actually do this.
Yeah, well,
right?
I mean,
Like, just for a heartbeat, liberals could feel the way his opposition, or the way his supporters usually felt, right? Like,
well,
oh god, he's crazy and he might actually
well,
do
remember we
something.
talked about the other thing too
And
about
and the deplorables, just for a heartbeat, felt what we feel, which is, oh god, he's crazy and he might just do something.
But remember the thing too about the con men is that they don't really stand for anything, so you can't pin them down because then you can always go back and find when they were for that. And so there's a little something for everybody. Like, anybody can see themselves, in Trump. And there, you got to remember too, there's also the weird, surprising to me, like, sort of racist reaction to Obama that I did not think would. I mean, I knew that racism's alive and well in America, but I didn't realize that the racism would be so strong that people would shoot down health care because it came from a black man.
It's a powerful beating heart in America of racism. It's absolutely insane how much of it still exists.
And that's what he rode to power on. And then, of course, there was the remember, he's an illegitimate president. He rode to power through hacked elections. People are now saying that, like, people that voted for him would not have voted for him if they'd known about this Stormy Daniels thing. And there's other stuff coming out about.
That's insane.
Yeah.
We knew the whole time that he cheated on every wife with his next wife. We knew he was a cheater.
But there's a difference.
That was
though.
well known.
Right, but anyway, there's a lot of stuff about that. But, like, those people will never change. They will blindly follow whatever they want to because it reaffirms what they think they already know.
Yeah, that's one thing. God, I had something else I was gonna say, but it slipped my mind.
So you were going to tell me about Spiro T Agnew, and we just got off on the cult of personality.
We did. There was something else on that I wanted to bring up, but I lost it. Screw it.
So his
Okay, back to Agnew.
sorry, so his lawyer, his Agnew's lawyer. What? Tell me, did Trump get
So,
Agnew's lawyer?
well, the best part of last week is what Spiro Agnew's lawyer talked about on Morning Joe's. And that's one morning. And that's that Trump could ultimately make this whole thing go away if he would just resign. The U.S. Intelligence Committee, Department of Justice, etc., ultimately do not want an eventual trial of is the POTUS a Russian plant, hitting the public record for
Yeah.
the same reason DHS would never admit if voter counts or registrations were officially purged, it would
Right.
completely undermine faith in the U.S. institutional
Well,
and election
remember-
systems. They would
so-
much rather build
yes,
a case,
so-
force resignations, and then let state prosecutors and prosecute these people for tax crimes, and just sort of let those
Yeah.
chips fall where they may.
Because the thing about it is, so what makes our country special, I guess, or at least has made it special? What makes a stable country? Do you know what makes a stable country, sir?
The peaceful transition of leadership.
Yes, the peaceful and respected on all sides transition of power. Whether you be Democrat, Republican, Bull Moose Party, Whig Party, Know Nothing Party, whatever, the results of your election have to be mostly respected, because once people start losing faith in that, then you've got all kinds of problems, man. That's when you start seeing whole sections of the country become unstable with insurgent type warfare and stuff like that, where like the Michigan militia is blowing up trucks on the federal highway and stuff. Like that's when that kind of stuff happens. When the smooth
So-
transition of power. And as much as he is an illegitimate president, and I'd like to see it all redone, I really just want him to go away, and I want us to fix our election laws and stuff.
Yep. And just because of Trump's enormous ego, it is eventually going to result in this whole thing blowing up in his face and in America's face, and we're really going to have to get down deep into this infection and see what's down there, and hopefully be able to treat it and fix it, right? But that's going to cast such a dark shadow on our election system, because the two of us know that voter purges probably happened. The two of us know that he was definitely a Russian plant and all this other stuff, but the majority doesn't know that. The majority doesn't realize that.
Well, there's
Like,
already
even
you got to remember
but this is going to make it public official record that all that stuff happened if these trials occur and get drug out. Not only that, but I mean, if he would just step down now, he could save himself, his friends, his kids, his grandkids, and any business associates he's ever had.
Yeah.
If he would just step down and let everyone roll the dice with things like state tax charges.
His own son said the other day before the Googling thing that all this bad news might make him suicidal, and he is very old and he is very unhealthy. So I'm just saying he may be the first president to commit suicide in office.
I want him to. We've gone this far with him. I want him to go just a little bit further so that we can see him impeached and removed and disgraced, and let it be a fit. Because if he dies now from a heart attack or something, or kills himself, then we're looking at that 36% that still approve of him. They're always going to doubt that.
Yeah.
That anything happened because it's never official legal record.
In this we are in disagreement, and as in to pull a little bit of the famous Watchmen comic in, you are Rorschach and I am Ozymandias, in that you're like the truth must be known, and I'm like,
I love that I'm Rorschach. I love Rorschach so much.
And
doesn't he die at the end of that? Spoilers for anyone.
Yeah,
who
he
hasn't
gets
seen it.
exploded by Ozymandias. But
I'm gonna die! And he finally takes his mask off at the end, and
Yeah.
he's just a guy, right? That's my favorite part, is that he's just some bloke.
Yeah. Like, you're just a dude. But yeah, I'm of the opinion that I just want something, even if it's based on a lie, as long as it brings us together, fixes things, and makes life better for people. I don't care if we never find out the full truth about him being a Russian agent, as long as we fix the election system and do some things differently so that it doesn't happen again. I don't think it's necessary that we see the full Walter White end of Donald Trump.
Yeah. But well, Ozzy, that's what brings us to what's going to be a
Well, you still
huge
didn't.
heart
You
of
still didn't
this.
tell us what the hell. Oh, you. I'm sorry. You did tell us what Spiro T Agnew's lawyer said. I was like, what
Yeah.
happened with Spiro? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that brings us to what's probably going to be the heart of this episode, which is a proposed timeline for Trump's impeachment.
So I got a little bit for this. That's not on the notes, and it might be on the notes. We are approaching what's known as the 50 days before midterm elections. And
Yep.
there's an unwritten rule that if you're, if you're investigating people and this, that, and the other, is that if you're going to announce any findings, you announce them before that deadline of 50 days, so that your announcements aren't politically biased and they don't interfere with an election. Even though Comey, freaking,
Yeah, fucking Comey.
good old,
What
good
was
old,
it,
good old, good old dumbass Comey, good old Barney Fife of the FBI. Well, Andy,
golly!
let's talk about let's talk about Hillary Clinton and the emails again.
Let's talk about Wiener's hold on, I gotta say this right for Wesley's sake. Let's talk about Wiener's notorious computer.
Yeah. So the idea is that everyone's talking about is that Mueller might drop some bombs right before the 50-day cutoff, or he may not respect it and just plod along with the investigation. I'll be interested to see what happens with that, if anything.
Personally, I think that it's gonna come down to Manafort's next trial, the one that's next month.
Right.
Is That's going to start revealing some bombshells, and that'll cast huge dispersion.
Well, there was an article already that said that Cohen told, I guess, prosecutors that Manafort took $50,000 from a Ukrainian oligarch and gave it to the Trump campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we already know so much stuff about him, and in fact, I found this great Reddit thread that's like Manafort's greatest hits, talking about what a true lord of shit this guy is, and I'd like to get into that too. But,
I think. Well, I mean,
yeah,
my whole thing is again.
There's such an astonishing amount of evidence against him that the only reason it was 8 guilties to 10 we don't knows is because the one holdout was a diehard Trump supporter who refused to give any sort of reasoning or rationale behind saying not guilty to those. And oh, by the way, Manafort does not get off on those 10 accounts. It's a mistrial, meaning he does get trialed again for those.
Yes, I didn't realize those were mistrialed. Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Yes.
The only reason why they haven't started it already is because he has a completely different criminal trial to go into, and then they'll retrial it after that.
Instead of sentencing him to prison, can we just sentence him to be in court for the rest of his life?
I mean, you do realize that just from the 8 counts of guilty the other day, he's facing a possible 405 years of prison.
So 2 things. So this is going to be my Super Bowl spread, my predictions, if you will. Manafort won't serve time in prison because either A, someone will kill him, or B, he will kill himself.
I don't think he's going to kill himself because he still has hope, and I think he still has hope because he's only tried, meekly to flip, and he did actually offer Mueller, or he did offer to Mueller to flip based on certain criteria that's never been released to the public, and Mueller laughed at it and sent it back to him and said no thanks. So he's tried half-heartedly to flip, but he hasn't tried harder to flip.
You got to remember, though, he's in a weird spot because the Russians will kill him. They have murdered people for less. So, I mean, it's one of those things, if he flips, who can keep him safe?
I mean, he could go into witness protection for the rest of his life because the Russians still haven't killed anyone on American soil. For Manafort, they might.
Do you think that the Russian state would not be able to crack witness protection and find Paul Manafort?
They might be able to. I mean, Russians are already everywhere. They can already hack our election and appoint their puppet president.
His only saving grace would be to fake his own death, get plastic surgery, and then just live on a fucking farm in Iowa.
You do know what he's hoping for right now, right?
I'm gonna guess
what his lawyers are trying to do.
Well, I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna go ahead and make a prediction that what he's holding out for is to be relocated to an ostrich farm.
Now, what he's hoping for is that
because the ostrich skin jacket.
Oh yeah. He can wear them. But he's hoping that his lawyers are trying to push back his because they were given like 12 days to prepare for the next court, and instead of doing any sort of preparations whatsoever, they just asked for another 30 days, and after that, they're probably going to ask for even more time. I'm pretty sure the extra 30 days has already been turned down, but they were given like one more week.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're trying to push it to past the midterms,
Yeah.
because once the midterms are out, they believe that he'll get a pardon.
Oh, he's still holding out for that pardon.
Yeah.
Well, as Trump doesn't like anybody who talks shit about him, I feel like he's going to turn on Manafort too. I feel like he's not going to pardon him.
He still feels bad for Manafort because he still whines about it every time he sees that on TV.
He's a good man. Paul Manafort's a good man. Fucking yeah, like he
You
turned
know,
on
have
he
you
turned
ever
on Cohen super quick.
Have you ever heard of this old movie called The Lords of War?
Possibly. Was that the Nick Cage vehicle?
I don't know. I didn't actually click on the link, but it's about an arms dealer, people that are responsible for selling weapons, and they cause just so many deaths, like out in third world countries especially.
Okay. So what does this have to do with Paul Manafort?
Paul Manafort is exactly like that, except he's the finance guy. If a Lord of War wants money to buy a shitload of AK-47s to sell to other people, they go to Manafort for funding, and he gets them the weapons. Paul Manafort's actually responsible for thousands and thousands of deaths indirectly.
So
you're
telling me that like the arms dealers that sell guns are going to want him dead too. This guy doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah, I mean, he stirred some rather rancid pots. But let me bring up the best of Manafort. I want to tell you like his resume, who all he's worked for in his life, and how quickly I can do that depends on how fast this feels like loading, which right now is just deplorably slow. Okay, here we go. Do you know?
All right, so let's do this. Let's hold on just a second. If we're gonna do his job resume, let's do it like you're an employer. And I am Paul Manafort. So you're reading my resume.
Hold on. Let me. Do you want? Here, I'll link it to you so that you can see what I see. Do you see what I see? Oops, that's the wrong thing.
Oh no! It opened in Firefox. And if you know anything about Firefox, you know that Firefox is gonna have to update now, like it always does. I hate Firefox so much. To my viewers, if you're using a browser, don't use Firefox. Use anything else. It's terrible. All right, so we're at a job interview. I've handed you my my resume. I'm Paul Manafort. All right, let's go.
So it says here you work for Ferdinand Marcos, authoritarian leader of the Philippines from 65 to 86. His regime was famous for its corruption and extreme brutality, supported by the U.S. government. In 86, Marcos fled to the Philippines with his stolen wealth and granted asylum in the U.S. government, where he lived out the rest of his life in exile.
Well, I like to say that if it was good enough for the U.S. government, it's good enough for me, because I'm nothing if not a patriot.
That's true. Mobutu Sese Seko, the military dictator of DRC, from 65 to 97, seized power through a military coup d'etat. The classic African dictator, deeply criminal but willing to be a U.S. ally. You're a very patriotic man, I see.
Yeah, you can see I've done a lot of work for quote-unquote dictators, but it was all supported by the good old U.S. of A.
What about this Sani Abacha, de facto president of Nigeria from 93 to 98, seized power through a military coup d'etat, and for about 5 years he and his family were in power. They stole $5+ billion from the government.
You're gonna want to go ahead and just maybe fast forward through this. There's a lot of classic African warlords that I've done some work for. Seized power, military coup, yada yada yada. Somalia, Kenya,
Next one's a coup.
Coup. I'm very coup fluent. I'm fluent in coup.
You're cuckoo for killing previous leaders.
Yes. We've made that joke before that we're cuckoo for military coups.
Viktor Yanukovych, president of the Ukraine from 2010 to 2014. He's currently living in exile.
In Ukraine we have saying, you say treason, I say, what? Where am I? Who are you?
Here we go. Most recent employee or employer, Donald Trump, President of the United States.
And if you'll notice, my work for Donald Trump so far by Wikipedia is not listed as a military coup.
Ah, very, very nice. Oh, it actually says right here that you're so good at your job that your name was mentioned over 80 times in this 1992 report titled The Torturers Lobby: How Human Rights Abusing Nations Are Represented in Washington.
Says who?
This document? Most documents?
Says who? The document can't talk. I rest my case.
Yeah. Ah, man. And there's actually more stuff than this. In 2013, Manafort admitted to French investigators that he played a middleman.
He's kind of, I'm not going to lie,
deal that led to the death of a dozen French engineers.
He's kind of the A-team of horrible military dictatorship coups. Very much like Pual Manafort. If you've got a problem and you'd like to solve it with torturing people and seizing power through the military, I'm your man. If you can find him and you can hire him, the Pual Manafort team.
Yep. Oh, there actually is almost another person who almost shows up on his resume is John McCain.
What did he torture John McCain too? It was like, oh, Mr. Manafort, I see you were in Vietnam and you tortured down pilots.
When McCain was going to run for president, one of the many people he interviewed was Manafort, and the second he learned that he used to work for Russian oligarchs, he's like, nope, and he just tossed it in the trash and kept going.
Yeah, I would too. So the one thing on Manafort's resume that I find very interesting, because it's the one thing he seems to have failed at, because all these other ones, he was really good with getting him into power. Until they, of course, all had to flee with the wealth. It says he was part of Pakistan's Inter Services Intelligence. He helped funnel $4 million to covertly influence U.S. policy towards Pakistan, creating a fake U.S.-based nonprofit company which under false pretenses lobbied on behalf of Pakistan. That one didn't work out too well because they were holding Osama bin Laden the whole time.
Yeah.
So that wasn't...
Which, by the way, as much as the GOP always likes to jump down Obama's throat and say, he had nothing to do with it was SEAL Team 6 that got Obama, or Osama. Well, while that's true, the thing is that actually we have a great deal to thank Obama for, because if we'd gone into Palestine and there was no Osama bin Laden there, we would have been in some pretty
You mean Pakistan?
Pakistan, yeah,
not Palestine.
Pakistan's what I meant. Yeah, because there was this huge deal about how they told the U.S. to keep their military operations out, but we decided to infiltrate anyway. We're pretty sure that the guy was there, but we didn't know for 100%. Joe Biden told Obama, don't do this. It's too risky. Don't do this. His military advisors were, split down the middle on what to do. And despite everything, Obama said, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to go ahead and see what's there.
To be fair, at that point, we've killed so many civilians with our drone war and our regular war that it is attacking a compound in Pakistan really it'd be like a little bit of a political oh no, but I don't think that would be like the thing to sink U.S. policy.
But he did it when a lot of people were telling him no, so
yeah.
We have a little bit of credit there.
Well, they say that SEAL Team 6 did it, but I mean, who was playing SEAL Team 6 like it was friggin' Call of Duty? President Obama.
This guy right here, who's got 2 thumbs and higher approval ratings than Donald Trump.
I will say your Obama's getting a lot better. Speaking of Palestine, though, I'm glad you brought it up. Trump's going to cut all funding for Palestinian refugees.
Yeah, that's why I said it on accident, because I was thinking about that as soon as you mentioned the other place.
So,
oh yeah.
If you don't know a lot about, we talked about the Arab-Israeli conflict previously, but
yeah.
It's a problem that's not going to get better till everybody comes to the table over there and decides that there is no two-state solution. It's a one-state solution where everybody is of that state.
Separate but equal never works. And by the way, Donald Trump has snuck that into speeches in the past. I forgot what the context was. He was like, okay, it's going to be separate but equal.
Yeah.
Space Force. He said that was Space Force. It's going to be Space Force. We're going to have the Air Force, and we're going to have Space Force. Okay? Separate but equal.
There's going to be a black Space Force and a white Space Force. You know what? Let's send him up first.
Yeah. I mean, God. Okay, so this is probably going to take a long time, so
That's what she said. Oh.
the and I was all like, not so much, lady. Okay, it's gonna take me about 23 seconds. All right, go.
I like how you
Try to
do
enjoy
that.
this.
I like how you do that as Obama. And everyone was warning Obama. They're like, Obama, don't do it. You know what? I'm going to do it. And I'm going to go in there. And you know what, Michelle? It's only going to take 5 minutes. And I don't apologize. I'm a busy man. And I've got a lot to do.
Including that sweet ass. So God damn it. Okay, so the timeline for Trump's impeachment. This is, not gonna lie, a huge text dump from a website that I read a lot, and I meant to like paraphrase all this, rewrite it, go through, do a lot of fancying up, so I wouldn't just be rereading this guy's
If I
words.
could make a suggestion, why don't you just do the Jurassic Park, where it's just like, do the God creates dinosaurs, God kills dinosaurs, God creates man, man destroys God, man.
That'd be great, but I don't remember all the beats to this.
Woman rules the earth.
That'd be great, but I don't remember all the beats to this. Plus, I mean, I think it's deeply interesting, so I'd like to get into the meat of it.
I think it's going to go a little bit like democracy is created, democracy elects Trump, Trump kills democracy, Trump rules the world.
Well, it's not the full history of Trump comes to power in 1812 and yada yada yada. It's going to be like from here, basically what happens, starting back. Anyway, I'll just get into it.
Okay, can you do it like a movie trailer?
I mean, it's going to take long enough to read without doing a voice.
If we're all like this summer
in a world. So most of what I'm about to read, credit goes to Scro, but that's just because I thought that this was a really good post, and I wanted to share it with our audience.
If people want to do some extra reading, where would they be able to find Scro's stuff?
I mean, this is like embedded on page 552 of MMO Champions politics forums.
Well, you can at least Google him. It's Skroe, Scro.
Correct.
He's generally, we like him because he's generally a pretty accurate political forecaster, especially in the world where political forecasts can be wildly wrong because all the variables are new.
Right. This is a guy that's kept track of politics for a long time. He is historically conservative. He is a Republican, but he's like what you would call a real Republican. Like he's that for philosophical reasons, for deeply personal reasons that go beyond just saying no to Democrats, right? Like this new brand of Republicans disgusts him because all they want to do is say no to Dems. He's more like, I think he said a Goldwater Republican. I don't remember what, but he believes in he believes in fiscal responsibility. He believes in paying debts, and he believes in capitalism in a better form than just letting businesses run all over people. He's a real conservative. That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
And he has stepped away from the Republican Party after a long, long time. He said that it took him so long to pull the trigger because once he leaves the Republican Party, he's not going back to him, right? He's not like a Trump supporter who will change his mind on a dime. If he makes a shift, it will be for real and it will be permanent, which is also one thing I want to say. I hate it when people won't forgive people in politics, because Hillary Clinton, yes, she did used to be anti-gay a long time ago, and she has changed to pro-gay during, I think it was I don't remember exactly when. But people still say, you can't trust her. It's like, well, let her change her mind, okay? It's one change in like 30 years, and it's for the better. If you won't forgive people for past transgressions, then why should they ever change, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, let's not get into all that, because this is enough of that, and now let's get on to the meat of this topic, which is this is most likely going to be the timeline for Trump's impeachment and removal from office.
Da-da-da.
Da-da. Okay, it was said during the investigation into Cohen, most of Trump's legal team quitting and Trump's subsequently starting to get aggressive and personal against Mueller in the spring was the end of the beginning. And I agree with that. And I think that Trump's Black Tuesday was the start of the middle.
Wait. Did you mean it was the end of the beginning or the beginning of the end?
The end of the beginning.
Okay, so now we're into
We're
the...
talking right. So now we're in the start of the middle.
All right.
So, don't you remember back whenever the investigation into Cohen happened and they raided his apartment? That
Yes.
wasn't the beginning of the end. They're not saying the end game happens now. They're saying that's just the end of the beginning.
Okay. All
But
right.
now, starting with Black Tuesday is the start of the middle. Black Tuesday being Manafort's ruling and Cohen saying that Trump's a criminal on the same day, and saying that he's a criminal in a way that really counts, meaning Cohen's doing jail time for confessing to crimes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's Black Tuesday, and that's when Trump really started to go unhinged. Like, we're seeing 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 5 a.m. tweets every single day now in all caps. Witch hunt! Witch hunt, okay? Fake news.
And what it still makes me mad that he keeps calling it a fake witch hunt, which is like, look, it's either a witch hunt or it's not. But if it's a fake witch hunt, then that means you're guilty, you idiot. Then it's just a regular hunt.
So between now and then was a kind of mid-season break in this nightmare drama. We're not close to this being over, but this is a big step forward, and an important step. The day after Trump was inaugurated, Scrow wrote at length about how he thought Trump was going to be removed from office, either by impeachment or resignation, and he said two things. It's not going to come fast. Some people predicted Trump wouldn't make it 6 months or a year. Scrow said the Trump's administration would collapse between summer of 2018 and late summer, mid-fall 2019. If he lasts to Thanksgiving 2019, he will make it to the 2020 election.
Yeah.
That means right now we're in the opening months of the siege of the Trump administration. And right now we're starting to build siege towers and fortification, bombardments. Besides some initial volley starts later. In other words, we could have another year and change of this. I think that, and I will say right quick, Peter, if you want to bring up the document I sent you earlier, you could actually read some of these paragraphs and we could like swap back and forth. This might take a while.
Yeah, if I can find a way to open it. I don't know where it went.
Okay, while
there
you're
we
doing
go.
that, I'll jump to the...
I found it. So where did you leave us off on this?
Under page 2 near the bottom, last paragraph right there. I said, so whenever it says I said, just say Scrow said, and the 2018 election is essential to the effort to defeat Trump.
All right, yeah. So yeah, I agree with this because it's saying that like, so Scrow's point in this paragraph is that for Trump to be defeated, the people that back him need to lose badly, right? Because right now Trump has this thing where if he goes out and supports a Republican candidate in the primary, that Republican wins, right?
Right.
So he still has value in power. People that cling to him and cling to power, he still has value.
That hasn't happened often. I mean, he has backed a lot of losers, including Roy Moore.
Yeah, well, they lose here's the thing, though. They win the primary, but they lose the general election.
Yeah. So right now he helps them win the primary.
Yes, that's my point. So he helps them win the Republican primary, but then they usually lose to a Democrat in a heavy Republican area. Now, Scrow says, the key reason is I never thought Trump would be removed in his first year, or even up to today, is the Republicans have been craven for years. The parties and all that, but a lot of the political class is extremely opportunistic, and that's what I'm talking about, me, Peter, is that as long as he has value to them, you'll still see like the Nunes, just like, Trump, look what they said about you, oh my God. So for all of his nonsense, they're getting to two things they want: a massive tax cut for their donors, and federal courts packed with conservatives, right? Beyond that, they don't really care. Even deregulation is more of a soundbite for the rubes because Republican money men who make everything happen to know that their companies have to be able to operate in a regulatory environment that exists regardless of which party holds the presidency. In any event, their mostly global business has to operate in an international regulatory environment, and it doesn't shift because a Republican is president. So that's the thing we're saying is there will be a time period after Trump, and the rest of the world still exists. It's just like when they tried to say that White House lawyers were like, that's not really torture. The UN goes, yeah, it is, and you can't just have a lawyer decide that that's not torture. You don't make international policy.
Yep.
So Scro's prediction, he says he's going to stick his neck out. Donald Trump, if he gets to an impeachment trial in the Senate, as in he fights rather than resigns, he will be removed with more than 80 senators voting against him, all Democrats and 25 to 35 Republicans.
Don't look at me like I'm nuts. I'm not ascribing patriotism to these people. I'm ascribing craven political calculus to it.
Right now, Donald Trump is perceived as a winner in hard Republican circles. You have to look at the absurd defenses his Bulgarian horde puts up that the establishment political class parrots. They're a defense of him as a success. And that's what I'm saying. So as long as he still holds political value, he holds some coinage, right? But when you see these motherfuckers losing hard in the midterms, and it's already looking close, like you've got a Republican, I'm sorry, you've got a black woman who's running as the Democratic governor of Georgia. You have we talked about it. I think we talked about it last time. You have a black man running as the Democratic governor of Florida. Both those states are purple. You are going to see these. You very possibly see these big flips in the midterms.
Yep, which should be wonderful. So he will lose the House in November. That's what everyone's saying right now. He has almost no chance of keeping the House. And this is huge. Like, I want to get off of this for just a second and remind people that the Republicans have had a stranglehold on the House since 2 years into Obama's presidency because the Republicans hated Obama just as much as Democrats hate Trump. But Democrats hate Trump because he's a monster, whereas Republicans hated Obama because he was black.
And they were able to use the racism to galvanize the base and hang on to the House.
Yeah, and they created the Tea Party specifically as a reaction to Obama, and the Tea Party managed to steal a tremendous number of seats in the House, and they all went in under the Republican title, but they weren't Republicans, they were Tea Partiers, but they just all fell under that one giant umbrella, and suddenly it looks like the Republicans hold an astronomical amount of the House, and then like they combine with some other people, and they all become the Freedom Caucus, and that Freedom Caucus is what has survived to today. But that's finally going to get gutted from the system.
If you're a Stephen King fan and you've read any of the Gunslinger series at all, right now the House looks like the way they described the sort of darkness between dimensions, which is a horrible dark realm full of awful monsters that want nothing more than to hurt you, and that's what the House is right now.
Yep, they are the rats in the walls.
Yeah.
And we need to gas them, get them out of there, and get some sunlight back into there, because that's the best disinfectant. By sunlight, I mean
I'm disagreeing with so much of what you're saying. Sunlight doesn't disinfect dead rats, you fool.
Well, if you have a million sunlights and a million
you're
rats,
going to end up with walls full of just dead, rotting meat.
I don't know. But anyway, he's going to lose the House in November, and he will at best seat or trade or gain one seat in the Senate, right? They might actually lose the Senate, but that's extremely unlikely. Like, don't hold out for the Senate because most of their people aren't up for re-election until 2020.
Right. And that
brings us to the Senate map for Republicans in 2020 looking very, very dark.
Even the Republican Senate has been kind of like the voice of reason in all this, whereas like the House will pass a bill to reinstate slavery, the Senate will then usually shoot it down.
Yeah, and it'll only be shot down by all the Democrats will vote no, and then all the Republicans will vote yes, except for like 2 holdouts, plus John McCain, who we don't even have anymore. And then we don't get slavery reinstated.
Yeah. So basically what the way this sums this part up is that because the Republicans will already have what they want out of Trump, which is transforming the federal judiciary and getting their tax cut, he doesn't have any usefulness. And when people start seeing that being backed by Trump may help you win the primary, but it loses you the general election, then they're going to start pivoting hard, and he's going to start losing friends fast. And we've talked about that before. People don't Go ahead.
I was going to say, and there's nothing else for him to win for them at this point. He's already being painted as a loser at this point. But what else is he going to give them? Another tax cut? Another Supreme Court opening? All that's gone. Like, all that's in the past. He's already reversed every policy that they could want him to reverse. So he's just sitting around filling up space and costing them elections. By next year, Trump will be held responsible for losing the House, making Republican Senate changes in 2020 look ominous, and the Republicans will have largely completed their effort in transforming the federal judiciary, and
What I like is
they have their tax cut
what
already.
Scro brings up, which is awesome, is that with Democrats controlling the House, they can do things like releasing his tax returns via the Ways and Means Committee and holding real
Yep.
investigations into the 2016 by the Senate Intelligence Committee on the hearings and stuff like that. That's what I've said for a long time.
Oh,
Is go ahead.
I was going to say, oh, and just for the laughs, did you know that the House is also, I mean, Democrats in the House are already saying that they're going to open up investigations into the private email server that the Trump administration had put into the White House.
Yeah, why wouldn't
Just, just to say fuck you for all the buttery mails bullshit.
you? Yeah. Did you want to go? Because we're running out of time here. I mean, we can do more of this.
We,
Go ahead.
we can go a bit long today.
All right, because yeah, there's a lot here, and so like I don't want to read the whole thing out loud. Um,
But
but
anyway, the next big thing for us to know is that the Dems need to win hard
yeah,
in November, and then he'll start being counted as a loser. So Trump is being set up like the moron he is. Oh, here we go. But I believe that that's the only way still. Justice. Yeah, and we bring up something that I actually brought up a long time ago, that the way that we can fix the Supreme Court is to change it from 9 to 11 justices so that we can fix the balance. And anyway, I'll just skip down to this. Trump is being set up, and like the moron he is, he's walking right into it. Cohen right now is the first big hit. The big hits to come are what will come from Manafort, and Manafort's more important second trial. The verdict for that will land weeks before the 2018 election, and we'll learn more about Manafort's ties to Russia and probably another Trump Tower bombshell. After the election, in which he loses badly and is panicked about a Democratic House investigating him in 2019, a weakened and increasingly cornered Trump will then attempt to assert his authority and defend himself. He will not fire Mueller yet, but he will fire Sessions and he will fire Rosenstein. He will hope that a Republican Senate that has one more seat in 2019 will get him somebody he wants to be Attorney General, and what he's really doing is buying time and hoping for the Solicitor General, Noel Francisco, will be more favorable to him than Rosenstein was. This is a patch, not a plan, of course. And of course, Francisco, who has a long career in government and presumably wants to not wreck himself on Trump, will turn out to be not any more favorable than Rosenstein. Remember the first rule of politics: self-preservation is king. Nobody will fall on their sword for a defeated Trump, once again underscoring why a 2018 Democratic victory has always been the essential ingredient. The firing of Sessions and Mueller will cause a slow-motion constitutional crisis. The
what?
lame duck session only has a couple of legislative weeks before the Christmas break. They'll be focused on funding the government for fiscal year 2019, something they've been doing, but will wrap up in an omnibus. And they'll do that in earnest because they know 2019 will be impeachment year. Democrats will be making statements about planned investigations into Trump once they take over in January. Republicans will say nothing publicly. Behind closed door, the growing consensus will be this man has got to go next year, so that Pence or somebody else can have at least part of 2019 and all of 2020 to stabilize the party's political future.
So, yeah, man, like, and the thing about Pence, and the reason I'm not worried about him is because he's going to be a classic lame duck president. He wasn't elected. He doesn't have the charisma that Trump has. I don't think that he'll win in a general election. I don't even know if the Republicans will run him in 2020.
Probably not. I mean,
Because
he does have like a campaign set up, but oh my God, this does go on for a while. I will summarize. He believes that come February is when all the real is whenever Mueller's going to put out all of his findings, and Trump will refuse to step down whenever it all becomes public. And so the trials will begin, and the impeachment process will begin, and it's going to get really, really, really ugly between February and June. And sometime in June is when he's finally going to step down.
yeah, so you know that like he's definitely he's so dumb and so that's the thing about Nixon. Say what you will about Nixon being crooked. Nixon was a very smart, very capable political operator, right?
Yes.
And he knew, and you can argue, you've said before, he loved the country. I don't know if he loved the country, but he did not want to go through a lengthy impeachment process that would probably force him from office anyway.
Yeah.
I imagine
and
that if it doesn't kill Trump, as in like if he doesn't have a heart attack or a fucking brain aneurysm or something like that, because this is a lot of stress to be under. He'll fight it all the way.
And this is an obese man. He lies about his weight. If anyone's like, he's not obese. Yes, he is.
Dude.
He lies about his weight. This is an obese man that eats nothing but fast food. He never exercises and has bragged about never exercising. He moves a minimal amount, usually just enough movement to eat paper on his desk. And he is the definition of unhealthy. It is a miracle that he's still alive. It really is just his genes that are keeping him alive at this point.
Yeah, or
and
the power
his tremendous amounts of money.
And the power of Satan.
Yeah, and Satan.
So he goes on to say that basically what will happen is you'll see a weird, like the Republicans will, the lion will lay down with the lamb, and the Republicans will work with the Democrats, like Schumer and McConnell are going to make a backroom accord to get him the fuck out of there.
Yes, and I agree with that. He predicts that that Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell will come together and say, you know what, the Democrats will not hammer the Republicans on supporting Trump for the past 2 years. We'll pretend like that didn't happen and move forward as equals to make this happen and to get rid of this guy. And Mitch McConnell has a shitload of pull in the Senate. When Mitch McConnell decides, okay, it's time to do something, it's going to happen. He's going to be able to make 20 to 30 Republicans vote yes on impeaching.
Yeah, so I mean that's what it's going to come down to. There was talk too about like striking a deal to save his kids. To keep them from prosecution. Yeah. Well, number one, I don't think they'd ever strike that deal. Like, oh, if you just leave, we won't prosecute you. I think they're going to pass it off. They're going to be prosecuted.
Because here's the problem: a lot of these crimes were committed in New York, and New York hates him. New York will never let go of this red meat.
You should really see all the videos of because I've walked by Trump Tower all the time because it's right next to Central Park, and like at any point people are out there protesting, just walking by with videos giving it the finger. He is not a popular guy in his own home state.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's that's the basic timeline. I'd love to get into more of this. We might have to do a part 2 next week.
May have to. There is one other thing. Well, actually, there's 2 other things that I wanted to talk about. One is about Nancy Pelosi, and the other is about Rudy Giuliani. But we don't have nearly enough time for all of this.
So stay tuned for next week. We'll leave you on a cliffhanger. Rudy, I can't even get his name right. Rudy Giuliani and Nancy Pelosi. Will they get married?
What's their celebrity couple name gonna be?
Rancy Gelosi.
Nancy Gelosi. Stay tuned for Nancy
Gelosi. Do you think that when he comes, Giuliani screams 9/11 or America?
9/11 America! Yeah, Scro says that nobody in politics has fallen as far as Rudy Giuliani. This was a guy who was on top of the fucking world in 2001, and today he's just a weird creature making faces and being Trump's mouthpiece.
They brought up a good point, but we'll call this what do we want to call this, the fall of Donald Trump part 1.
Yar.
So stay tuned for next week when we'll get into the fall of Donald Trump part 2.
Trump, we can call it Trump Fall Part 1, and then Trump Fall Part 2.
What was
Trump
the name
Fall.
of that first Daniel Craig James Bond movie?
Oh, I don't know the different Bonds.
I don't know. Why don't we just call this from With Russia with Love Part 1, The Fall of Donald Trump?
It's a long title.
It is a long title. Okay, fine. Stay tuned next week for Part 2, you bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
America!
Oh, I just remembered what I was going to say earlier. Oh,
well.
Stay tuned for that next time.
He's leaving us hanging. Fine.